Hey guys, we're looking at lesson 2.3. So lesson 2.3 is having everything to do with like standard form, and we're starting to get into kind of smaller skills within standard form. So one skill we're looking at today is called X method. Now, X method is something that your parents and like even when I was in school, we didn't use this method, but we did do this math. There just wasn't a way to like organize it or something for it to be called. So just an FYI, if you're talking to your parents, this is just a different way, but the same type of math that they did in school too. So let's start to talk about what the heck this X method is. So what we're doing with this X method is we're trying to find the factors, aka numbers that multiply together to equal a number. But those same numbers, those same factors would combine together to equal a second number. And again, that statement kind of gets confusing, which is why we need a way to organize these numbers. So the structure that we do to organize these numbers is called X method. So once you understand how X method works, we're going to talk about where these numbers came from and how it connects to quadratic functions that we've been talking about. So let's jump in it. So how X method works. You do have directions on the left-hand side, and knowing X method is kind of like your first level to a bigger skill that we're going to be working on. So let's just jump to it. So our first step is we need to write out the factors of the positive version of the top. So it's okay if you have a negative number, we still want just the positive factors. And remember, factors are numbers that multiply. So if I'm thinking about my factors of 11, my only factors are 1 and 11. Once I have these factors, I'm trying to figure out how they would combine, aka how could they add or subtract to equal the bottom number. So my only factors of 11 are 1 and 11. So it works out nicely for us because, again, they need to multiply. So we know that 1 times 11 is 11, and that's our top. And we know that 1 plus 11 is going to equal 12, and that's the bottom. So again, our side numbers that we have here, this 1 and 11, they need to multiply to the top, and they need to add or subtract to the bottom. That's why we just say combine, so that way we can either add them or subtract them. All right, we're going to, again, look at some positive numbers, and we're going to now look at some negative numbers. So let's look how negative numbers come into play here. So again, I'm going to start with the top. So my top number here is this negative 11. And again, I want to do just the positive version. So for now, I'm going to do the positive versions. And again, I have 1 and 11. But the issue is here, if I were to multiply to the top, I would get a positive 11. I need to get a negative 11. I also need to be able to combine to the bottom, and that needs to combine to 10. So this is where you might have to kind of play around with your signs. And there are some like little like tricks that you can learn and things like that. But to be honest, sometimes it's easier just to kind of guess and check. So let's think about this. If I made 11 a negative, would 1 minus 11 equal 10? No, that would not work because that would be a negative 10. So it can't be negative in front of the 11. So that means your only other option is to make 1 a negative. And that does make sense because if I do negative 1 plus 11, that's going to equal 10. And again, I need it to combine to the bottom. So I know my side numbers are negative 1 and 11. So again, making sure we understand the idea that these side numbers need to multiply to the top, and they need to add or subtract, if we've got a negative number, to the bottom. All right, let's look at some more. So again, I need factors of 24. And again, I'm going to do the positive version here. So I've got 24. Now, 24 has a lot more factors. So let's start with 1 and 24. 2, that would be 12. 3 and 8, 4 times 6. I can't do 5, and then if I do 6, I end up with a repeat. So that's how I know I have all my factors. Now I need to be able to combine to 5. So let's go through these. There's no way 1 and 24 can get me to 5. There's no way 2 and 12, if I add or subtract those, that can't get me to 5. Oh, right here, 3 and 8. That could get me to 5 because I know I can do like 8 minus 3 and that would be 5. So, okay, I know my side numbers have to be 8 and 3. And again, I need to make sure that they combine to 5. So again, you can kind of guess and check, but hopefully we know that in order for this to be a positive 5, this 3 would need to be a negative because 8 minus 3 is equal to 5. But again, notice the top. If I multiply 8 times negative 3, I definitely get negative 24. Okay? So again, you're finding two numbers that multiply to the top and combine to the bottom. All right, let's look at another one. So we need the factors of 100. Now this one's interesting because when it combines, it needs to be 0. So let's think about this. Well, obviously 1 and 100, that would be 2 and 50. 3 won't work. 4 and 25. 6 won't work. All right, what about 7? 7 won't work. 8 won't work. 9, no, but 10 will. We could do 10 and 10. And notice 10 and 10, that should get us to that 0. So 10 and 10, and then again, we got to be careful with our signs. So we need one of these 10s to be a negative, because negative 10 plus 10 will add up to 0, and negative 10 times 10 will equal negative 100. All right, let's do two more. All right, so we need factors of 50. So 1 and 50, 2 and 25, 3 won't work, 4 won't work, but 5 will. 5 and 10, 6, 7, 8, 9, no, I think then we're getting back to 10, so I think that's it. All right, and again, let's go through our factors. 1 and 50 won't work, 2 and 25 won't work, but we definitely can do 5 and 10. And again, we got to be careful with our signs. So which one would need to be a negative in order for them to combine to negative 5? Hopefully we know that 10 would need to be negative, because again, 5 minus 10 would equal negative 5. And again, double check, we multiply to the top. So yay, we are good. All right, last but not least, we've got 16. So we can do 1 and 16, 2 and 8. What would that be? 3 didn't work. 4, yeah, 4 and 4. And again, this needs to combine to 0, so definitely this 4 and 4, but I got to be careful because I need to multiply to negative 16, and they need to combine to 0, so one of these needs to be a negative. Okay, now for all of these problems so far, we've had some of them where it's just one negative, we have some where there's no negative, and there are times that you have both of them that are negative. And we'll see a couple of those. All right, so this is how our X method works. Now let's go on to the next piece. So our next piece is understanding where these top and bottom numbers come, where do they come from to begin with? So they come from our standard form of a quadratic. So again, our top numbers and our bottom numbers for our X method come from our standard form of a quadratic. So the first thing we're always going to do is organize into standard form and identify A, B, and C. Now for these example problems, I already have these organized for you We just need to identify A, B, and C. Okay? So looking at this problem, hopefully we know that A is equal to 2, B is equal to -5, and C is equal to 2 as well. All right, let's do that for these other problems. All right. Ooh, this one's interesting. I've got these parentheses. Hopefully we remember from earlier today that this 2 out front would be called our GCF. Our GCF is not our A, our B, or a C. We need to look right here inside the parentheses, and we should know that our A is equal to 1, because technically there's a 1 in front of this x squared. B is equal to -8, and C is equal to 7. All right, last but not least, let's look at this one. Okay, interesting. I'm missing something. Technically, I have an x squared plus a 0x minus 25, because again, I'm missing a B. So A is equal to 1. B is equal to 0, because that was what was missing. And our C is at -25, because again, that's the one without the variable. If you are having issues with identifying A, B, and C, you need to look at the previous Edpuzzle video to catch up on that. All right, so we did that. I got our A, B, and C. Our next step is to put the product, so we're multiplying of A and C at the top. Okay, so we're going to be setting up our X method. And we're going to do A times C at the top, and then B is going to go at the bottom. So let's look. 2 times 2, that's going to be 4. And -5 goes at the bottom. Okay, that's not too bad. Let's go ahead and do that for these others. So again, I need to set up my X method. A times C at the top, B at the bottom. So 1 times 7 is 7, and then just a -8. And last but not least, I've got A times C and B at the bottom. So 1 times -25 is -25, and then 0 for B. All right, so now we know where these top and bottom numbers come from. They come from, again, A times C at the top and B at the bottom. All right, now we need to go through and we need to figure out the side numbers, which is what we learned how to do on this previous page. So let's actually go through and do it, and you'll get some more examples as well. So let's take a look again. Start with the top number. So we need factors of 4. So if I think about my factors of 4, that would be 1 and 4, and then 2 times 2. Okay, well, I need to get to -5. 1 and 4 is going to give me the closest. And now I need to think about my signs. So this is where we have to be careful, because I need to multiply and have it still be a positive. But when I combine, it should be a negative. Well, let's think about this. If I make both of these a negative, we can understand that -1 times -4 is still a +4, yay. And -1 minus 4 is a -5, yay. So this is one of those situations where both of our side numbers are negative, because again, a negative times a negative is a positive. But if I were to combine two negative numbers, they are still negative numbers. Now, there's more for us to do in this process, but for now, this is done. Because again, we're just stopping at setting up X method. There's going to still be some more steps after this. All right, let's do this process again. So my top number is 7, and I need my factors of 7. The only factors of 7 are 1 and 7. All right, and then I need to be careful. I've got a positive up top and a negative here at the bottom. So kind of like the previous one, I would need to make both of these a negative, because -1 times -7 is still a +7, and -1 minus 7 is going to be a -8. So make sure to check them out, make sure everything's good there, and we're good. We're done for now. All right, last but never ever the least, let's look We got negative 25. Oops, I wrote the negative sign. We only really need the positive here. Once you're good at this, you can include the negative from the beginning. But for now, let's just keep it positive and deal with the signs at the end. All right, factors of 25. Well, we have 1 and 25. 2 won't work. 3 won't work. 4 won't work. 5 times 5. And already there's a duplicate number, so we're good. This needs to be 0. So I know I'm going to use this 5 and 5. And again, I need to make sure that they combine to 0 and multiply to a negative. So I definitely need one of these to be a negative. Negative 5 times 5 is negative 25. And negative 5 plus 5 is definitely 0. So that checks out. We are good. And for now, that is done. So just so that we can start to see the big picture and kind of putting all of this together. So we've been learning how to organize in standard form. Then we need to identify A, B, and C. And then we need to set up our X method. So let's take a look at a couple more example problems. Definitely pause if I'm going a little bit fast. I just want to make sure that we can put all of this together. All right, so I'm looking at this. I'm going to go ahead and move my negative 3x squared to the other side, so plus 3x squared. Now when I move it to the other side, I can't combine it with anything. So it's just going to be a positive 3x squared that gets moved to the other side. And then I'm going to rewrite. Make sure we're putting in standard form. So 3x squared plus 8x plus 5. And that's equal to 0. And again, if you're confused on what standard form is, then you're going to need to look back at a previous Edpuzzle video to figure that out. All right, now we've gotten the standard form. We need to identify A, B, and C. So I can tell that our A is equal to 3, our B is equal to 8, and our C is equal to 5. All right, that's done. Now we need to set up our X, again, just to help us organize ourselves. So if I'm setting up my X, remember that 3 times 5 is at the top, so 3 times 5 is 15, and 8 goes at the bottom. Now I need to figure out my side numbers. So if I think about the factors of 15, we've got 1 and 15, 3 and 5. Nothing else will work. We definitely need this 3 and this 5. Now notice it's a positive up on top. It's a positive on the bottom. We can check it. 3 times 5 is 15. 3 plus 5 is 8. All right, we are good. All right, let's look at another one. So again, kind of move everything over. So we can actually move this negative 15 to the other side. So plus 15 plus 15. So 0 is equal to negative 3x squared plus 12x plus 15. Now this problem, we're going to talk about a lot more in the future, but I'm just trying to kind of connect some dots for you. So in class today, we talked about a GCF. And remember that there was a problem earlier in this lesson where I pointed out a number and said, hey, that's going to be our GCF. So if I'm looking at this problem, now for the first problem, example problem we did right here, there was no GCF between the 3, the 8, and the 5. But if I look at my next problem, I can divide all of these numbers by a negative 3. And I'm specifically going to divide by not just a positive but a negative because I've got this negative with our 3 here. Now your GCF is not always this first number. It just so happens to be in this situation. We'll look at a lot more of them where it's a different number. So if I rewrite this with my GCF, I've got 0 is equal to negative 3, x squared, careful, positive divided by a negative is a negative 4x, and that's going to be a negative 5. Now my GCF we're going to use in the future, but for right now that GCF is just going to chill there, and I need my A, my B, and my C. So remember that I'm going to be using my standard form from inside these parentheses here. So my a is equal to 1, because again there's a 1 in front of x squared. B is equal to negative 4, and C is equal to negative 5. Next step, I'm going to set up my x method. So I should have A times C up on top. So 1 times negative 5 is negative 5. And B, which is negative 4, is at the bottom. All right, factors of 5. So the only factors that we have of 5 are 1 and 5. But again, we got to be now careful with signs. Double check your signs. I need this to combine to a negative 4. So again, if I made 1 a negative, negative 1 plus 5, that would be a positive 4. That's not what I need. I need to make sure that I make the 5 a negative, because negative 5 plus 1 would equal negative 4, and that's what I need. Again, that would multiply to 1 times negative 5 would equal negative 5, and that's what we need. So then we are done for now. Whew, last but not least, let's look at this one. This one's kind of weird looking. This one's kind of weird looking because it looks kind of naked. There's not much to it, but that's okay. So I still need to put this in standard form. So let's go ahead and move the 9 over. If you've already noticed, we kind of like x squared for this term to be a positive. It doesn't have to be a positive, but we just kind of like it as a positive. So let's go ahead and move 9 over. So minus 9 minus 9. Now I cannot combine those terms, so I have x squared minus 9 is equal to 0. Now hopefully we're noticing, okay, I need my a, b, and c. I should very easily be able to see a is equal to 1. But when I go to look for b, there's no x term here. Now, technically, this would be like an x squared plus 0x minus 9. Because again, that b is 0, it's missing. And then our c should be negative 9. So again, another special case there. Sometimes our b is missing. But we can still do the same process. Let's set up this x method. A times c, 1 times negative 9 is negative 9. And then b with a 0 at the bottom. Oh, we saw a couple problems like this earlier. All right, so I need the factors of 9. So that can be 1 and 9, 3 and 3. I'm going to need to use the 3 and the 3. And then I need to make one of these a negative. So that way, negative 3 plus 3 is 0. And negative 3 times positive 3 is negative 9. So again, multiply to the top and combine to the bottom. All right, I highly, highly, highly suggest that you look over this. Definitely come ready for some questions in class. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day.